Motorists should be punished for speeding even if they are just 1 mile per hour over the limit, Britain's road policing chief said last night. In a dramatic warning of a huge crackdown on drivers, Chief Constable Anthony Bangham said the days of the soft treatment of offenders must come to an end. He called for the scrapping of the 10% buffer over the signposted limit that most police forces allow, and also claimed that speed awareness courses were being used too widely. Signaling a radical departure from the status quo, Mr. Bangham said the courses should be reserved for those only marginally over the limit. Everyone else should ever get fines and points on their license. And he added that traffic officers should stop being apologetic for handing out speeding tickets, and speeders should stop whinging about being caught. However, critics warned such a hardline approach risked alienating motorists and making them feel victimized. One MP said a zero-tolerance policy would only make criminals of good drivers. And motoring chiefs warned that such a policy could even prove harmful, with drivers' eyes glued to their speedometers instead of the road. Recent research by some councils has suggested that lower speed limits of 20 miles per hour in town centers barely reduce driver speed, and in some cases had made roads more dangerous. Mr. Bangham is the National Police Chiefs Council lead on road policy. His comments are significant because many chief constables will take their lead from him. The West Mercia chief's speech comes after figures showed a rise in road deaths. Current police guidelines state motorists should not be stopped if they are caught driving up to 10% over the speed limit. They also are given an extra 2 miles per hour allowance above this level. This leeway, which also applies to those caught on camera, is equivalent to being allowed to travel at 68 miles per hour in a 60 miles per hour zone or 35 miles per hour in a 30 miles per hour zone. Motorists who exceed this level by just a few miles per hour are usually offered a speed awareness course rather than points on their license, provided they have not already attended one recently. Only after that do motorists get points and a fine. In his speech at the Police Federation Roads Policing Conference yesterday, Mr. Bangham said he believed speeding drivers were no longer afraid enough of being caught. He warned that speed awareness courses had become the expected norm, and insisted that instead there should be more penalty points, fines and prosecutions to install fear in drivers. Mr. Bangham said he was proposing that police chiefs ditch the buffer and instead send anyone caught going up to 10% over the limit on a speed awareness course. The courses typically cost between £75 and £100, depending on where you live. Anyone caught doing over 10% should automatically face penalty points and a fine. Declaring enough is enough, he argued that police had lost sight of their duty to enforce the law and spent too much time trying to justify speeding tickets and being patient with speeders. Let's change the message. We are proud to be law enforcers, he said. I do not want the public to be surprised, I want them to be embarrassed when they get caught. They need to understand the law is set at the limit for a reason. They should not come whinging to us about getting caught. If booked at 35 or 34 or 33, in a 30 miles per hour zone, that cannot be unfair because they are breaking the law. The most recent figures available from the Department for Transport show there were 1,792 road deaths reported in 2016, up 4% from 2015 and the highest annual total since 2011. Mr. Bangham said he wanted to have the safest roads in the world and there was no reason why police cannot reduce the number of road deaths to 0. He also accused the government of pandering to speeding voters rather than worrying about the rising numbers of road deaths and injuries, adding, I would like to see a more obvious, explicit commitment to this across government. However, last night some criticized the tough approach signaled by Mr. Bangham. Tory MP Sir Greg Knight warned a zero-tolerance approach would make criminals of good drivers. The police rely in many cases to solve crimes on the goodwill of the public, he said. I can think of nothing more likely to destroy that goodwill than an overly aggressive policy towards motorists. It will make criminals of motorists who are basically good drivers trying to obey the speed limit, while keeping an eye on the road. He added it is a pity he is not expressing the same enthusiasm for cracking down on violent crime and yobbish behavior. Edmund King, president of the AA, said Mr. Bangham would appear to want to go back to the days of Dixon of Duck Green. Of course speeding is dangerous, and drivers should not speed. But surely it is better to educate motorists rather than just slap a fine on them. The last thing we want is drivers glued to speedometer 100 Birken.